We randomly selected the speaking order. So, incumbent Mayor Bill Mills will be our first assignment to speak tonight. And we'll go over to Mayor Mills, and I'll start the time.
Okay, well, how about we let them sit down first?
Okay. Oh, we have some
We'll share
pictures.
it for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Whenever you're ready.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to come here tonight to talk to you about what's coming up as far as the election is concerned. I'm going to keep my comments to 3 points, okay? And basically, I have been the mayor for 19 years. Certainly, you have to enjoy the job in order to stay that long, and certainly, I believe the commitment is there. One of the things that when I first became mayor, I had to look at what was happening in the town 19 years ago. And what I did hear from developers was that Truro was one of the most difficult towns in the province of Nova Scotia to do development. And so I went to meet with them to find out what they meant by that. And basically it came back such as this. Everything that was talked about, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do that. So what we did is we got together with our staff and also with members of council, and we changed the narrative, if you will. So what happened was, if you came and you wanted to develop something in Truro, the answer was never no. The answer was always yes, but we have to work with you, and by working with you, we'll come to a solution as to how we can get from A to B. And I think the record shows that it's been pretty successful. And gone so far as to meet with developers personally and thank them for their investment in the town of Truro. So I think that's pivotal. That's what it was in the past, that's what it is now, and that's what it will be in the future. So I talked about in my campaign having the strength, the experience, and the vision for the future. A big part of that is cooperation. And certainly we have cooperated, as I said, with developers, but we've also cooperated with the province of Nova Scotia, the federal government, and finding out the programs that are available with regards to funding and so on and so forth. Also with our partners, Bible Hill, County of Colchester. One of the criticisms given to me not long ago is I was in the back pocket of the mayor of Colchester. Well, we got $2.2 million from them for the new library. So, you know, if that's true, then the back pocket is the place you want to be. But I say that in jest, in a sense, but we did have that wide-ranging cooperation that has paid off, and not just with the library, but with a lot of other projects. I mean, we did a thing this past summer, sponsored by the Chamber at the Fire Hall, the old Fire Hall, about the number of projects that we cooperate together on. And there's about 14 or 15 of them that we have cooperated, and they've all been big-ticket items, and all have benefited the region. So I work for the town of Truro, but I also work for the region, and that's pivotal if we're going to go forward. So we continue to do that. The other thing is, too, the track record of 19 years, plus there were 10 years on council before that, as councillor for Ward 3 and also deputy mayor. And people who come back home to Truro, one of the things they always say to me, we can't believe the changes in the community. What we've done is we've looked at all the buildings, the town-owned buildings. They either have been demolished, the ones that were beyond repair, and replaced with new buildings, or we've also taken some old buildings rather, and made them new. A really fantastic example of that is our new library. If you haven't been in yet, you owe it to yourself to go and have a look, okay? And that's a good example of, you know, that was a 20-year process, starting with, you know, what can we find for a use for the building, and then all the discussion that went with it, and we kept running into roadblocks of competition with private enterprise, apartments, and things like this. We don't want to do that. We don't want to compete with the business community. What we want to do is we want to work with them. And so what we did finally come up with was the normal college, and the results of that are quite striking. And if you haven't been in, like I say, you should go in and have a look, because the wow factor is there. And as a result, we have the trigger effect of the demolition of the old building, and the new concept for the Civic Square, the one-horse town. That's an example of working with other groups for the best interest of the area to make this a happening place. This is another example right here. In the most of my years on council, I've said yes to just about everything that have come our way. I expect to do that in the future. And again, that experience, that strength, and that vision. 5-year plan in January. We'll have staff and council work together to look at the next 5 years of what we should do, and we'll be looking for input from the general citizens on what they expect and would like to see over the next 5 years. So, that's it. Thank you. I hope to get your support on October 15th, starting on the 6th.
And our next candidate is Keltie Jones.
All right, thank you very much for this chance to address folks today. And we are doing a video of it so that we can put it online so other people who haven't had a chance to see this will get to see all 4 candidates. I am really excited to be here today because I'm excited to be running for Truro. I believe in this community, I love this community, and I believe that it deserves progressive and innovative leadership, and I think that I can provide that. I'm going to talk a little bit today about my experience and about my vision. My experience comes from extensive government activities. I've been on several boards. I kind of lose track sometimes. I think it's about 8. And committees, many other committees, and I've served as the chair of 6 different boards or committees, including 1 year as the president of an elected school board. I'm currently on 3 different boards, nonprofit boards in the Town of Truro, and I'm the chair of 2 of those. And I'm also on the tourism committee for the town, chair of that, vice chair of the planning advisory committee, and on the brand leadership committee. I understand the role of council and the role of the mayor. I understand that the role of the council is to set the strategic direction, to provide the overall guidance for the community and for the staff, to make sure that we're going in the right direction, and that we understand where we're going and we're not just kind of drifting along. I also understand the role of the mayor is not just one more vote on council, but it's also the role of being a facilitator, bringing people together to find collaborative solutions and to talk to each other about what it is that the issue is, and analyze the complex issue, and then come to an agreement. And I've demonstrated my ability to do that in many different ways, including here in this community. I brought together a tourism summit back in 2013, I think. And it was a group of business leaders and property or operational owners, tourism owners, or operators, individuals. We all came together to talk about what was the strategy for tourism. And I did that because I was on the tourism committee, but we really didn't have a clear strategy of what it was that we were trying to do. So we brought the group together, we had a conversation around where we were and where we wanted to go. And out of that came the idea that what we really needed to do was work on retelling the story of Truro. We needed a new branding strategy, an idea of who we are and how to tell that story. So from that conversation, I was getting the feeling that there were a lot of people interested in that. I brought together another group, independently, on my own. We brought together a group of people who were business owners and community members and advocates for the community to talk about that, to start the conversation. Then I generated a proposal, brought it to council, and said, we need to have a rebranding process. Council agreed, said, go for it. We got together, worked very closely with the staff. We've got excellent staff, and developed an amazing brand for Truro. And a brand is not just the logo. The brand is the values behind it. That's what you have to use to drive your decisions. And those values that we identified, the make the connection values, are ones that I believe in passionately. And they're the ones that guide my vision for the community. One of the things that I'm really excited about is what the One Nova Scotia report nailed, is the idea that we need to have collaborative solutions to the problems that we're facing. It can't just be silos, and it can't be territorial. We have to be working together. And collaboration is more than just building buildings. Collaboration is talking to each other and really moving forward on different solutions and strategies. And we need leadership that's going to be out in front with the business community on those issues, rather than trying to be waiting to be convinced that collaboration is a good thing. There's been some recent activity on a regional economic strategy. There was a small blurb in the paper about it. That the Truro Colchester Chamber of Commerce, they led that initiative. But they had to expend a lot of energy to bring the mayors to the table to talk about that and to get on board with it. And we lost time in terms of implementing it. We're started on it now, that's great, but we also need to have leadership that's really going to be out there in front with them, hand in hand, and not just sitting back and waiting to see what people bring to them and waiting to say yes. I also believe that we need to have a collaborative approach to poverty issues in our community. Those are some of the serious issues that are happening within our community that are really holding us back. I think it's really important to bring together the nonprofit sector, the municipal sector, and the businesses to understand what's the business case for reducing poverty and how can we change things. There's an amazing group in Canada right now, Vibrant Communities Canada. They have an initiative on cities reducing poverty. We should be part of that. We should be in the lead on some of these issues. I also think government needs to be accessible. We need to have meetings at times when people can attend. I brought this up 4 years ago. Nothing happened. We still meet at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I also believe that the documents should be available. How many times have you seen there's a notice in the paper that there's a bylaw amendment there that they're considering? And if you want to see it, you have to go to town hall to see it. You can't find it online, you can't get copies of it, you have to actually physically go and see that downtown. The Planning Advisory Committee had complaints about people not having access to our reports in a timely way. We've passed an amendment that said that we could make them available to the public as soon as we had them, online. If we can do that for Planning Advisory, Council should be doing that too. So in summary, I believe in Truro. I believe that this is an amazing community, and we have an incredible energy happening here in town right now. What we need is leadership that's going to be out in front with them. It's going to be making things happen, not just lagging behind or catching up. And I believe that I can provide that leadership, and I will vote for me and unite behind me for change on October 6th through the 15th. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Keltie. Our next mayoral candidate is Mr. Raymond Tynes.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak to everybody today. We've heard some wonderful presentations from our first two candidates, but I want to talk about the people. We've heard what we're going to do for the people. We're going to bring people in to talk about how to help the homeless, how to help the business. We need to talk to the people who are already in the situation. To tell you a story, a number of years ago, we were called downtown to a meeting of business people with the police and everybody there. The question was asked, what are we going to do with the derelicts that are hanging around downtown? And I thought about that. So I asked the question, what do you mean by derelicts? Well, you know, those people who are just hanging around. Well, they spend money. They may not have as much as the rest of us, but when you add it all up, they spend just as much money around this town as anybody else. These beautiful buildings that we have, they need to be accessible to everybody. And we have to pay for them. The town of Truro has made a lot of mistakes over the years. They've done some good things. But when I first came on council, the first thing I saw, we were spending $350,000 from 2000 to about 2005 doing studies. We have an excellent staff. We made changes to our leadership to have people who care. It was said about things being on the website, but what wasn't said was we spent a lot of time changing the website. If you look at the new website, you're now starting to see the things that couldn't be there before. We are accessible, but we need more transparency. One thing I will do as a leader is I will not be out there telling people what to do or how to do it. I will be working in collaboration with the other councillors, with an excellent relationship with mayor and staff. We built a skate park, and when we sat around the table to build that skate park, we were trying to decide what was best for the young people. But as we were sitting there, I said, well, wait a minute now. I remember Ralph Willis a long time ago when we had to go visit Detroit to learn some things. I said, Ralph, why are you taking somebody who's unemployed on this trip? Ralph said, they need to learn and be part of this as well as us. They're the experts on unemployment. We all got jobs. The young people, we brought them in and we allowed them to come up with their creation. It started out as a $100,000 project and ended up with a $350,000 project. And they were challenged to raise $30,000. They raised about $15,000. There were some members on council said, see, I knew they were going to fail. And they said, you missed the whole point. All we wanted to do was to have them participate. That's what we want in this town. We want every citizen from the east end to the west, to the north, to the south, to be able to participate. Not a group of us who think we got all the answers, okay? Everybody. And if you think that somebody here can solve all your problems, any of us candidates, well, I hope you choose the candidate that you think can. I can't solve all the problems, but I do promise this. I will surround myself with the expertise needed. I'm not afraid to go out into the community to talk to people. There's a lot of things in my 12 years, okay, Colchester Community Workshop. I was on that board, $1 million operation. Ended up as chair and interim general manager. Made wholesale changes. I didn't start at the bottom, I started at the top down. You go there today and see how thriving that is. I got a call to go over to NSPE and the racetrack to get it going, keep it going until a permanent solution was put in place. I just didn't go in and direct people. I rolled up my sleeves and got involved with it. That's what I've been doing for the last 12 years, rolling up my sleeves and getting involved. We need more of that. We need to listen. We need to work closer with our county counterparts in Bible Hill. There can be a better plan. And I believe that I am one that can lead. And I don't lead by directing. I lead by example and working in the trenches with people. I don't have big degrees. I don't have connections uptown or whatever. But what I do have is the tenacity to break down barriers. I've proven that I can mediate, I can facilitate, and I can negotiate. Ask the employees of this town for years who were lagging 3 years behind in their contracts. Every one of them are up to where they should be. I believe, and I've proven, that I can be and will be the leader of this town for the next 4 years to take us where we need to go in connecting with all the citizens from every walk of life. Thank you.
All right, and our final candidate for mayor of Truro, Mr. Allen.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank the Chamber for allowing us this opportunity, and I'd also like to thank all of you for coming out this evening to hear what we have to say. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I've heard my fellow candidates talk about some of the issues and some of the things that they would like to see done and some of the things that they've done in the past. Some of us have not been on council or have not been in the position of mayor to actually be able to take credit for some of the great things that have happened in this town. And there are some great things that have happened in this town, and they are a credit to people like Mr. Mills and also Mr. Tynes and other councilors and people that have been involved on the town council and in the mayor's position. However, is there room for change? Yes, there is room for change. There's always room for change. There's always room to to make things better in the community for the residents that live here. I've lived here for 66 years. I was born on the corner of Normandy Avenue and Queen Street in that big brown house. And some of you may not realize that was a hospital at one point in time. And I was born there, and I value living in this town. I've worked at the Agricultural College in the Animal Science Department. I was the first statistic ever to test positive for HIV within the Nova Scotia Civil Service Commission. And basically that altered my life. I basically ran to Toronto and spent 4 years there. That was the only time I've actually been away from Truro, those 4 years. I came back with a vision for me and my life, and also to make changes in this community from a community-based perspective. I started the Northern Healthy Connection Society. I've been around the world doing issues around fighting for benefits for children who are living with HIV in Belarus, formerly of the Soviet Union. I've been in negotiations with the Minister of Health there, fighting for the benefits of those children so they didn't have to be in segregated schools. I've also been in a march in Durban, South Africa with women who were actually fighting for medication, who were HIV positive, who wanted that medication to prevent their child from being born positive and get the medication through the 3rd trimester of their pregnancy. I've done a lot of those things. And you may ask, what does that have to do with Truro? And you're right, it probably has nothing to do with Truro, and you're probably not concerned about hearing all that information about what I've done around the world. But I have a great deal of experience. I've been president of the Interagency Coalition on AIDS and Development based in Ottawa that does international work. I've also been chairperson of the Canadian AIDS Society. I've been the longest serving board member on the Canadian AIDS Society in history. And I know what it's like to be a board chair. And I know what it's like to actually work within the compounds or the confinement of knowing the difference between operational and governance. And I know that you can't really dip between the two or cut across those barriers. There are all kinds of other issues that we face here in this town, and we've been hearing it as we've been out on the campaign trail. I've heard everything from what do we do with the feral cats? If you become mayor, I'll expect to see you sweeping the sidewalk in front of the town offices, the floodplains, you name it, and I've heard it during this campaign. And I value hearing all those concerns from the residents of Truro. I really welcome their concerns to be shared with all of us. And, can we do anything about it? Maybe not. Maybe we can. And I'm not going to make any promises that we're actually going to do anything about those particular issues, but I assure you that I will listen, and I will hear what you're saying to me, and I will do my utmost to act on it. And I will actually try to lead this town into a new era. I think of the town of Truro historically being the hub of Nova Scotia, and I would really like it to return to being the hub of Nova Scotia. This is a vibrant community. It's a wonderful community to live in. It's a wonderful community to raise your families in. So, I love it. I want to be part of it, and I just sort of throw my hat on the race, and I'm not pretending to be anybody other than I am. What you see is what you get with me. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm probably the bluntest, more outspoken person in this whole town, and I'm quite proud of that. And but I am willing to work with you as the residents. I am willing to work with the councillors, and I'm willing also to work with the town to actually make change. When you start thinking of things like the floodplains, that's been going on forever. When you start thinking about the John Ross junkyard, that's been going on forever. Can we change those things? Probably not. But can we actually still try to work towards change? Yes, we can. But we need to work together towards those changes collaboratively, working together in unity and not in silos. We really have to come together as a community to try to achieve those changes. Thank you very much.
All right, I'd like to thank our 4 mayoral candidates here for the town of Truro, Mr. Bill Mills, Mr. McNutt, Ms. Keltie Jones, Mr. Raymond Tynes. Thanks for joining us this evening and sharing your views and vision for the community.